How's it going, everybody? Brian Porter here once again from Keller Williams Realty, and I have your real estate market report for Santa Clara County for the month of May. And I think we're in a bit of a shifting market. So it seems like over the past few updates, I've had to say basically the same thing every single time, and so we are seeing some minute changes currently. Nothing drastic, but we are sensing those little shifts that you'll see in a market before things do correct a little bit. Now, I'm not saying things will correct, but I do think that things are gonna plateau, and I do certainly think that a small correction is possible. So let's get right into it. It's still only taking 7 days to sell a home. That's the median days on market for homes across the board in Santa Clara County, so things are moving very quickly. I would say most homes are still getting multiple offers, and most homes are selling over the asking price. April, when we got those numbers back, we were able to see that the list to sale ratio was at 115%. And that had been moving up quickly throughout the year. Now, the list to sale ratio just means that that's going to show you, what is the difference between the listing price and the sale price. And so right now we're seeing a sale price about 15% over the listing price. Again, that's not something, that's not to say that homes are selling 15% higher than they should, or that you can just list a home and it sells 15% higher. Obviously, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean that homes are still being underpriced and then selling closer to their true values. And that's because a lot of buyers are still capping their searches under what their max is. So you might have somebody that's looking for a house up to 1.5 million. Most of them aren't looking at the properties unless they're listed, a little bit under 1.2 million or something like that, just factoring in the overage that they're probably going to be looking at when they actually go to write an offer. So we're still seeing that, but it is down ever so slightly from last month, and that's the first time we saw a slight decrease this year. So I do think things are plateauing a little bit. Interest rates have a lot to do with that. We're seeing interest rates now that are about double what they were over the summer of 2021. And like I always say, every time those go up 1%, you're looking at about a 10% decrease in buying power. So the buyers that were able to purchase last year at 1.5 million are having to lower that at this point, sometimes down to 1.1, 1.2 million in order to actually be able to afford the same payment. So I do think that we are probably going to see a leveling out because of that, and we're probably going to see more of those increases throughout the year. The Federal Reserve has become a little bit more hawkish, meaning that they are going to get a little bit more serious about attacking the inflation problem that we're having right now. And so we're probably going to see a couple more increases at least this year. They're talking about another 50 basis points a couple of times at least. Every 50 basis point increase is about 0.5%, or is 0.5% interest rate increase. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see interest rates closer to 6+% by the end of the year. Now, that is what you would expect to see in a more balanced market anyways. It's just we've gotten really used to seeing those awesome low interest rates for so long. Now, I am sensing a lot of the same things that we saw in early 2018, kind of late spring, where we started to notice that we might be seeing a little bit of a pullback soon. And what we were seeing then was, we would see, 100 people come through an open house on the first weekend. And then a few weeks later, we saw about half of that. And then the following weekend, we started to see more like 30 groups that would come in. And so it was steadily declining a little bit, but that wasn't really affecting prices because agents weren't really totally aware of that all of the time quite yet. And it took a little bit of time for the market to catch up to that. And then after that, we saw about a 7% decrease in values in Santa Clara County across the board. Some areas saw a little bit higher, some areas saw a little bit less, and then we did see the market increase back up again after that. Now that's healthy because things that go up in a straight line a lot of times will come down in a straight line, and we've seen 21% appreciation year over year from last year, and that's just not something that is sustainable. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a dial back in values this year. You might say, well, inventory is super low. We're still only at 0.8 months, meaning if we weren't to put any new houses on the market in the next 0.8 months, we would run out of real estate. Obviously, we're going to put more houses in the market, but that's what that metric means. Well, I will say that we're only 0.1 weeks higher, or 0.1 months higher than we were when we saw things start to dial back last time. And then by midsummer to late summer, we had about 2.2 months of inventory. Now, it stayed, the ball stayed in the seller's court throughout that. Even though prices were coming down a little bit, we were still seeing a lot of multiple offers. We were just seeing a bit of a taming of the price. And I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that again this year. So I think things are balancing out a little bit. For you sellers out there, you really want to make sure that your agent is tuned into what's going on in the market. If they haven't sold a house in quite a few months, they might think it's the same as it was a few months ago, and they might price you too low, or they might price you too high, or they may not exactly know, what's going on. So it's important that they have a pulse on the market, and so make sure that you're going through the comparable properties and making sure that you really put a realistic value on your home when you go to sell it, and always recheck those same comparables right before you hit the market. So if you sign a listing agreement and you're working on fixing up the house and all of that, you want to make sure that you check the comps again right before you list to make sure that the listing price you figured out a few weeks ago still makes sense today, because things can shift rather quickly. For you buyers out there, when we saw that 7% decrease in the county in property values, well, if we see that again, and you have an interest rate that goes up 1% and that decreases your buying power by 10%, it actually makes more sense to buy a house today than it would be to wait until a small drawback if we were to get one. So if you're planning on staying in a house for, 5 years, 10 years, and something like that, probably better to lock in a lower interest rate, because that's probably going to pay off more long term. If you're thinking about buying a house and selling it in a year or two, we don't really know what the market's going to be doing in a year or two, but we do know that typically homes are going to be higher than they were in a 5-year period in most cases. So if you have any questions about what's going on in the market, if you need a home valuation, if you're curious about buying and wondering, can I even do that? Feel free to call me. I'd love to help in any way that I can. My phone number is 408-813-6865, and my email address is brian.porter@kw.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys next month. Bye.